Before you donate that old kitchen box from your mother's house, turn everything over. Because one tiny mark on the bottom can be the difference between an ordinary dish and something collectors have been hunting for years. And that is exactly how valuable pieces disappear. Not because people hate them, not because they are broken, but because someone looks at an old casserole dish, an old teacup, or an old glass bowl and says, "Nobody wants this." Then into the donation pile it goes. So today, I want to show you 10 vintage kitchen items you should never donate before checking the mark, stamp, pattern number, or maker's sign. And we are starting right away with one of the easiest things to miss. Number 10, old teacups and saucers. If you have a cupboard full of old teacups, do not judge them from the top. Turn them over. Because the real clue is often underneath. Many people donate teacups because they seem incomplete, mismatched, or too delicate for modern use. But collectors often care more about the backstamp than the cup itself. You may find a maker name, a crown mark, a country mark, a pattern number, or a decorator's symbol. Names like Royal Albert, Ainsley, Coalport, Paragon, Wedgwood, and Royal Worcester can matter, but only if the exact pattern, age, and condition are right. That is the key. A famous name alone does not make every cup valuable, but a good mark can tell you who made it, where it was made, sometimes when it was made, and sometimes which pattern it belongs to. And that matters because a single teacup may be ordinary, while a harder-to-find pattern in excellent condition can be very desirable. So before donating teacups, check the underside of both the cup and the saucer. Sometimes the saucer carries the clearer mark. And never separate a matching cup and saucer until you know exactly what they are. Number 9, vintage mixing bowls. Old mixing bowls are one of the most commonly donated kitchen items because families think of them as practical, not collectible. But the underside can tell a very different story. Look for Pyrex marks, Fire King marks, Glasbake marks, hallmarks, ovenware markings, mold numbers, and size numbers. This is especially important with vintage Pyrex and Fire King. A bowl that looks like just an old bowl may belong to a collectible pattern, a harder-to-find colorway, or a complete nesting set. And if the mark includes a number, that number can help identify the exact bowl size and where it fits within a set. That means one bowl sitting alone in the cabinet may actually be part of a much more interesting group. Also check for unusual colors, pattern decoration, handled Cinderella shapes, and complete nesting families. The mark does not work alone. It works together with the color, shape, and pattern. So when you find a vintage bowl, do not only ask, "Is it old?" Ask, "What does the bottom say?" Number 8, CorningWare casseroles. Now we come to something many families still use without a second thought, CorningWare. And this is a perfect category for the check the mark rule. Because some CorningWare pieces are common kitchen survivors, while others attract much more collector attention, depending on the backstamp, the pattern, the exact shape, the lid, and sometimes the production era. Start by turning the dish over and checking the bottom. Look for the brand, style, model code, and pattern family. Then look at the decoration. Blue cornflower is the pattern most people recognize, but there are many others collectors look for too. And the exact backstamp can help distinguish earlier and later production. Also keep the lid with the base. A casserole with the correct lid is always more complete than one without it. And do not forget the accessories. If there is a cradle, warmer, or rack stored separately, keep it with the dish. People donate old CorningWare all the time because they assume it is too common to matter. Sometimes they are right, but sometimes the mark on the bottom tells a much more interesting story. Number 7. Cut crystal bowls and serving dishes. Cut crystal is another category people misunderstand. They look at a heavy glass bowl and either assume it is priceless or worthless. Usually, it is neither. And again, the clue often starts underneath or near the base. Some cut crystal pieces have acid-etched maker marks, tiny signatures, engraved, names, or distinct cutting patterns that function almost like a fingerprint. Makers such as Waterford, Baccarat, Lalique, and others can matter, but the mark must be right and the piece must be genuine. On genuine marked crystal, the maker's mark is often subtle, very subtle. You may need strong light and even a magnifying glass. Check the underside of the base, the outer rim near the base, and the center area underneath. And if you do not see a mark, do not assume the piece is worthless. Some older glass and crystal items are identified more by pattern and cutting style than by a clear signature. Still, if you find a mark, stop and investigate before donating. A good crystal bowl often looks ordinary to the family because it has sat in the same cabinet for decades. To a collector, that tiny etched name can change everything. Number 6. Stoneware crocks, mixing crocks, and old pottery bowls. Now check the pantry, basement shelf, or understairs storage. That is where old crocks and pottery bowls tend to end up. People use them for utensils, flour, onions, or decoration. And then eventually they donate them because they seem too heavy and outdated. Before you do that, turn them around and look carefully. Look for impressed maker stamps, capacity numbers, town names, cobalt decoration, merchant names, and pottery marks on the base. Some stoneware pieces were made by regional potteries, and local collectors cared deeply about those marks. A simple crock with the right pottery stamp may be far more interesting than a prettier but more common decorative piece. Also inspect the glaze and decoration. Blue cobalt designs are especially worth checking. And if there is an old lid nearby, keep it with the crock, even if it does not seem important. The rule is simple. If a heavy old kitchen pottery piece has a stamp, number, or painted capacity mark, do not donate it until you identify it. Number 5. Old china plates and dinner sets. This is one of the most common donation mistakes of all. A family inherits a full china set. Nobody uses formal china anymore, and the entire set goes to charity in 6 boxes. But before that happens, every plate, bowl, serving dish, and platter should be checked underneath. Why? Because the backstamp is everything. That backstamp may tell you the maker, the country, the approximate era, the pattern family, and sometimes the exact pattern code. And in dinnerware, pattern matters enormously. One floral china plate may be common. Another, from a discontinued or desirable pattern, may be much harder to replace. And collectors often search for very specific pieces to complete damaged family sets. 1 dinner plate, 1 soup bowl, 1 gravy boat, 1 platter, or 1 sugar bowl lid. That is why even incomplete sets deserve inspection. Do not donate them as miscellaneous plates until you know the maker and pattern. And check the serving pieces especially carefully. Sometimes the dinner plates are common, but the tureen, platter, teapot, or covered vegetable dish is what people really search for. Number 4. Silver-plated tea sets, trays, and serving pieces. Now let us talk about the metal pieces that sit in kitchen cabinets looking old-fashioned and slightly tarnished. Tea services, trays, coffee pots, sugar bowls, creamers, serving stands, and platters. The first instinct many people have is to polish them or donate them. Do neither until you check the marks. Turn them over and look for hallmarks, manufacturer names, plated marks, sterling marks, pattern numbers, and symbols. This is a critical difference. Some pieces are silver-plated, some are sterling, some are from known makers, some are decorative reproductions, and those differences matter. A mark like sterling is very different from a plated mark, so never assume from appearance alone. Also look at matching pieces together. A full matching tea set is one thing, a lone creamer is another. Condition matters too, but identification comes first. And please do not polish aggressively before checking. Over-cleaning can remove character and sometimes make evaluation harder. The bottom tells the story. Always start there. Number 3. Cast iron skillets and old kitchen pans. This is a category people underestimate constantly. Old cast iron. Families often donate it because it is heavy, black, and old camping stuff. Big mistake. Turn cast iron over and inspect it closely. Look for maker names, heat rings, size numbers, pattern, letters, logos, gate marks, and raised markings on the handle or underside. Names like Griswold, Wagner, and certain older makers can attract strong interest, especially when the pan has the right markings, smooth cooking surface, no cracks, and no serious damage. Also check old griddles, Dutch ovens, muffin pans, gem pans, and unusual specialty pieces. Collectors do not only want skillets, and do not assume rust kills interest. It may reduce value, yes, but people often throw away collectible pans simply because they look rough. The mark underneath is what tells you whether the pan deserves a closer look. A heavy old skillet with the right underside markings should never go straight into the donation box. Number 2. Depression glass and coloured serving pieces. Now we come to one of the strongest categories on your channel for a reason. Depression glass. Families donate it all the time because they think it is just pretty old glass. But pattern recognition is everything here. And although many pieces are not clearly stamped, you still need to check the base mold lines, pattern details, colour, shape, and any manufacturer clues. You are often identifying these by pattern rather than a bold maker's mark. That means you need to slow down and examine the design carefully. Pink, green, amber, blue, and clear pieces can all matter, depending on the pattern. And serving pieces are often especially important. Butter dishes, pitchers, cookie jars, covered, candy dishes, cream and sugar sets, serving bowls, and platters. Do not donate them as old glass until you know the pattern. One bowl may be common. A covered piece in the same pattern may be harder to find. And if you have several matching items together, keep them together. Collectors love sets, and even when they buy single pieces, they usually want to know exactly which pattern they are getting. That is why the mark concept here becomes slightly broader. Sometimes the clue is a physical stamp. Sometimes the clue is the pattern itself. Either way, the bottom and base area are where your investigation starts. Number 1. Vintage Pyrex and rare patterned ovenware. At number 1 is the kitchen category that proves this entire video, Pyrex. Because so many families still treat old Pyrex as ordinary kitchenware. And sometimes it is ordinary. But sometimes the right pattern, colour, and mark turn it into something collectors really care about. Start with the bottom. Check for the Pyrex mark, pattern family clues, bowl numbers, model numbers, size numbers, and whether the shape matches a known collectible line. Then look at the design. Rare or harder to find patterns, promotional pieces, unusual colorways, and complete nesting sets deserve special attention. Also keep every correct accessory: lids, metal cradles, serving brackets, warming stands. People constantly separate these pieces. The bowl survives, the lid survives, the metal bracket gets lost, the cradle gets donated, and value disappears little by little. Some of the most exciting Pyrex finds come from exactly this mistake. A family had everything. Then over the years, they split it apart. Now a collector would love to have the complete set again. So if you find old Pyrex, turn it over, read the bottom, check the pattern, look for the rest of the set, and do not donate anything until you know whether that old casserole dish is just useful kitchenware or something much harder to replace. Final message. If you remember only one thing from this video, let it be this. Never donate vintage kitchenware from the top view. Always turn it over first. Check the bottom, check the stamp. Check the backstamp. Check the etched mark. Check the pattern number. Check the maker symbol. And if there is no obvious mark, check the pattern, shape, and details before making a decision. The 10 categories we covered were old teacups and saucers, vintage mixing bowls, CorningWare casseroles, cut crystal bowls and serving dishes, stoneware crocks and pottery bowls, old china plates and dinner sets, silver-plated tea sets and trays, cast iron skillets and old pans, depression glass and coloured serving pieces, vintage Pyrex and rare ovenware patterns. Some of these will turn out to be ordinary. That is fine. The goal is not to imagine every old dish is valuable. The goal is to stop throwing away the good things before you identify them. Because tiny marks are easy to miss, and small marks often carry the biggest clues. So before the donation box leaves the house, open it one more time. Turn every piece over, and tell me in the comments, what is the oldest kitchen item you still own right now? A teacup? A Pyrex bowl? A cast iron skillet? A crystal serving dish? And subscribe, because next time we are staying in the kitchen and focusing on one of the easiest categories to misidentify. Old serving bowls that look common until you know the pattern.